Included group text exchanges among top Trump administration officials about U.S. war plans in the Middle East is raising alarm bells tonight. The story broken by the editor-in-chief of the Atlantic magazine, who in an article published today describes how he was accidentally added to a discussion group of the U.S. response to Houthi rebel attacks. Jeffrey Goldberg reporting he received the text by way of the encrypted messaging app Signal that appeared to come from Vice President Vance, along with Secretary of Defense Hegseth and Secretary of State Rubio, among others. The messages the Atlantic reports include precise information about weapons packaging, targeting, and timing. Information the magazine reports appeared to be accurate. Tonight, the National Security Council acknowledging the account appeared to be authentic and that it is trying to learn how an inadvertent number was added to the thread. Andrea Mitchell has much more.
Days before U.S. fighter jets took off from the aircraft carrier Harry S. Truman in the Red Sea for strikes against the Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen, a security breach with potentially catastrophic consequences for the U.S. military. Details of the U.S. war plans shared in real time with the Atlantic's editor-in-chief Jeffrey Goldberg by accident on the unclassified commercial messaging app Signal.
I assumed that I was being spoofed or hoaxed or being included in some kind of disinformation campaign, because it was simply too improbable to me that they would have such poor operational security as to inadvertently invite the editor of The Atlantic into a national security discussion about the timing of a bombing campaign.
But it was deadly serious. Goldberg says he was added by a user, National Security Advisor Mike Walls, to a group chat, including the Vice President, the Secretary of State, the Defense Secretary, the CIA Director, and the Director of National Intelligence, sharing precise information about weapons packages, targets, and timing. Shocking Senate Intelligence Vice Chair Mark Warner.
Holy crap. I mean, when this level of detail is being shared on a non-classified network, and this isn't the first time we've seen this sloppiness from this administration. Early on, there were a couple hundred CIA agents whose identities were exposed.
Goldberg says at one point the Vice President called the timing of the attack on the Houthis, who've been striking international ships in the Red Sea for 2 years, a mistake, because it conflicts with the President's message to end the war in Ukraine.
That was actually very substantive. There was disagreement among some of the principals. J.D. Vance suggested in this conversation that he not only disagreed with the president, but also felt that the president didn't have all the information or all the insight available.
The National Security Council says the chat appears to be authentic, adding, "We are reviewing how an inadvertent number was added to the chain, and there was no threats to our service members or our national security." The president reacting tonight.
The Houthis, you mean the attack on the Houthis? Well, it couldn't have been very effective because the attack was very effective. I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it. You're telling me.
Lots of questions here, Andrea. What's the fallout from all this?
Lester, the administration is lucky the person they added to the chat was a serious journalist, because Jeff Goldberg did not report the name of a covert CIA official and left the chat when they started talking about sensitive bomb assessments. Ironically, the administration has threatened to prosecute leaks. Tonight, Hillary Clinton, investigated for her emails, tweeted, "You've got to be kidding me." Lester.
Andrea Mitchell, thanks. Now to the legal showdown over the Trump administration's deportation of alleged migrant gang members, citing a law giving the president sweeping wartime powers. Those deportations the center of a court fight tonight. Kelly O'Donnell has late details.
President Trump's use of a rare wartime power facing a new legal test.
These are bad people that should have never been allowed into our country.
Today, Mr. Trump defended his administration's mass deportation policy, including the removal this month of alleged migrant gang members who were flown out and sent to an El Salvadoran prison under the Alien Enemies Act, which does not provide due process. The president says he declared members of the Venezuelan gang TVA as foreign terrorists subject to immediate expulsion.
We're getting the bad ones out first and we're taking them out.
Today, a 3-judge federal appeals panel heard arguments as Trump administration lawyers seek to overturn Judge James Boasberg, who temporarily blocked deportation flights using the 18th century law. The administration says the judge went too far.
The district court's order represents an unprecedented and enormous intrusion upon the powers of the executive branch.
In a notable court exchange, Judge Millett raised concerns about the deportations.
There were plane loads of people. There were no procedures in place to notify people. Nazis got better treatment under the Alien Enemy Act.
A literal reference to the law's use during World War II that prompted this response from the government's lawyer.
Well, Your Honor, we certainly dispute the Nazi analogy.
While Trump border czar Tom Homan reacted with outrage.
We removed terrorists. And to compare that any way whatsoever with Nazis is disgusting on every level.
The Trump administration cited the Alien Enemies Act to carry out 137 deportations, providing no names or evidence. Using other authorities, they say 11,000 migrants were deported in February. Outside the hearing, an ACLU lawyer representing a group of these deportees described what could be at stake.
Someone who was not even a gang member could now spend the rest of their lives in a Salvadoran prison.
Meanwhile, Kelly, there's another headline involving President Trump's directive on investigating certain law firms.
So the president issued a memo to his attorney general and Homeland Security secretary to sanction law firms that file suits the administration finds frivolous or penalize lawyers by pulling their security clearances. Tonight, critics say this is an inappropriate use of presidential power. Lester?
All right, Kelly, thanks. Laura Jarrett joining me now. Laura, this could be headed to the Supreme Court.
Almost certainly in this case, and probably several others, Lester, like birthright citizenship or the layoffs of federal workers. These issues in the courts partly because of just how much the president is doing by executive order or action, things that haven't been done before. We now see over 40 different rulings so far from federal judges blocking actions by the Trump administration. A few, the Supreme Court already being asked to weigh in on, while there's no guarantee which of these cases the justices will eventually take up. What's really before them is a broader fight over the scope of the president's authority, Lester.
Okay, Laura, thank you. Wildfires tonight burning throughout the Carolinas as firefighters